would say the voice you want.
Right, thank you very much. Kia ora everyone, so I'm Frazer, I work for Auckland Council, I'm in,
That's
lights.
Just the
That's all right.
first one's on.
I work for environmental services. It's all good. Okay,
Who don't.
so I'm talking about monitoring. Now, I always do put this up. I said to Annalie, it's actually a bit of a joke because I have been to some conferences and talks and things where people are actually in the wrong room. So this one is about monitoring. So if you're here for the wrong talk, there you go. Hopefully none of you will leave. Also, I put that there to kind of keep me honest, to remind me exactly what we're going to focus on. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about monitoring citizen science. A lot of people do get into the ins and outs of what is monitoring, what's citizen science. I don't do that too much because I think both of them are so very similar, and you could debate that for a very long time. It's sort of more I'm interested in actually getting people out there doing both, but also just basically getting out there and seeing what is in nature, doing those observations. So looking for our butterflies, things like that, okay? And also I'm here basically to share some top tips of where you can find some of this information, okay? As I go through, I'll sort of be giving out lots of information. If you also have something you want to add, please do add to it, because I haven't got an exhaustive list here. I'm now thinking I should have put in a butterfly slide. Okay, so that's me. So basically I'm going to talk a little bit about my background. My background very much shapes my view of monitoring and citizen science, but also I might be able to help you out. A big part of my role in council is helping people, and I'll explain that as we go. So yeah, we will look at some examples of monitoring and citizen science, and as I said, where to find that information. So my background is I was a school teacher, and then I was an educator at MOTAT. Then actually I went back to schools. Basically in the old days, you kind of had to keep going back to keep your registration. So I was a teacher, and then MOTAT, and then back to schools, and then Maritime Museum as an educator, then back to schools again, then Auckland Zoo. And then when I was at Auckland Zoo, I got a really great opportunity. I started to specialize in our native species, and they started something really cool. Basically, the zoo has a concept of people visit the zoo. That's how they make their money. It's very expensive to look after animals, so the more people you have visiting, the better. But also they started doing a lot of outreach. And so I was called into that team. So we used to teach on Rotorua Island. That was an awesome dream job. Basically, you hop on a ferry, you have a coffee because the kids are just too excited to learn. So basically you just cruise, look at the orca as they're swimming by, and then you teach on the island, and then you come back and that's your day. I mean, that's pretty good, isn't it? So that was good while it lasted. And then I started teaching up at Tawharanui, doing the same thing, but we were doing overnight camps, sleeping in tents, and there's all the wildlife there. So I thought that was really good because I got an experience of an island and experience of a fenced sanctuary. Then also the zoo, we started looking at what else we could do. So we did lots of local board projects. So all over the place. So we did a lot of work with community Waitakere and the Te Aratu wetlands at Orangahina, a bit at Tuhuna Torea. We took groups up to Goat Island, so we do a bit of biodiversity on the land, and then we'd go snorkeling. Once again, how good is that? And then we started taking groups to Mutukaroa, or Hamlin's Hill. Is everyone here aware of where Hamlin's Hill is? Yeah, that's why we chose it. It is a regional park right in the middle of the city. So if you go shopping at Sylvia Park and you go on the motorway to get there, it's that hill that's next to Sylvia Park. You probably think it's motorway planting, and a lot of it sort of is, but it's actually a small little regional park. It's very tiny, but it's kind of an interesting, I guess, place to go and look at because it is this little green patch in the middle of all these houses, and there's a motorway. There's thousands of cars go past every hour. So it's a real sort of urban oasis. We did actually have an idea that wouldn't it be amazing if you could fundraise and put a big fence around it and basically call it like Sanctuary in the City? That could be our version of Zealandia. And now I'm in the Council of Environmental Services. So my home role sits in what they call sustainable schools, but actually I end up working with schools, community groups, conservation organisations, that what we call the sector. So that would be like Matuku Link or the zoo or Blake or Royal Society, people like that. And so I end up, I guess, helping out lots of different people. My role is regional. So one day I can be up at Lee, another day out at Pukekohe, another day in Howick, another day out here in Henderson. So basically a lot of travel, but it's good because I get to see conservation everywhere. And what I notice a lot is I notice those trends of what people are doing, but also what they're talking about. You can be sitting in a meeting in South Auckland, you're like, this is deja vu. We had the same meeting West Auckland a month ago. So that has some advantages because you see, well, everyone's got the same issues, but also you can see where things are slipping through the gap sort of on a landscape scale. One of those things, I've jumped a couple of slides. Oh, pressing the wrong button, that's why. One of those things that I do notice is we don't do enough of the monitoring, but I'll explain that sort of as we go. Another thing I do is I help out Blake. That's the old Sir Peter Blake Trust. They do a lot with youth, but also they have a teachers program. So they do that 3 times a year. And basically on that day, there's myself and you guys know Rude Climb Past, the bug man? Basically we do a tag team and we take all the teachers to Tawharanui for the day and we walk them around and we explain how conservation works. The idea then is they go back to their schools, no matter where they're from, South Island, Wellington, wherever, and that's sort of the springboard into what they could do next. Okay. I also have done lots of conservation volunteering actually with a lot of you. So I've seen some of you in lots of different places. There's a little bit there with Oakley Creek, with Wendy Johns, a little bit of Twin Streams. I started up a little group. It didn't sort of work out too well, sort of COVID happened, and we also had a few volunteers that went a little bit off the script, I guess you could say, so we sort of had to stop what we were doing, but that's still sort of kind of going, Sunhill Scenic Reserve. And also I got to go and do an expedition down to the sub-Antarctic. So I've kind of been here, there and everywhere. So I guess I add my teacher background and my conservation background and my volunteering, put it all together, and that's sort of where I get my inspiration. I've also been a volunteer on Rotorua Island. That was cool. So basically for a couple of summers, I'd go out there every weekend and do the biosecurity checks on the boats and all the people, but it was a great job. You just basically got to walk around the island and talk to people and look at the biodiversity. I mean, that's awesome. And I did a similar thing on Tiritiri Martingi as one of the guides there. And just something I've just started up recently is I've sort of, I've taken a bit of advice, because like I said, I work a bit with Rude Climb Past, he's the bug man. I work with Ben Paris, he's the Batman. And we were sort of talking and they said, well, what are you? And when I first joined my council team, they called me the pest guy. That's not the nickname you want. So I really thought about it. I thought, well, what am I passionate about? I'm actually more passionate about the things we're trying to save than the things we're trying to kill. But also too, when we have a big meeting, you know, and you do whakawhanaungatanga, you go around the room, what do? Basically I say, oh, on my team, I'm the biodiversity guy. So I thought, well, actually that kind of works, doesn't it? And that very much is sort of my focus. So did something with the wonderful Matuku Link people. That was really cool. Thank you guys. And yeah, so basically it's a bit about me and my background. I guess one thing I really learned from being a teacher is anyone here a teacher, by the way? No. Oh. Yes, no, it does. It does. Yeah. I was kind of hoping John was here. You know, big tall John, because basically he and I have some good chats about teaching and stuff. What I learned with being a teacher is teachers, they follow a process. And so basically when you're a teacher, and especially if you're primary or intermediate, you get the kids and you start the year, you know what you're going to teach them, but not at what level. So to actually start, you do what they call their observations of the kids, okay? And basically you start that and you work out where they are at, and then you make a plan, and then you teach them, and then you assess them again at the end, and you see if you've made a difference. And what I've really discovered is conservation and that scientific process is the same thing. You need to know where you're starting to actually help you plan where you're going. What I see a lot in conservation is people get stuck in, and that's actually really awesome, but sometimes they get stuck in and sometimes there's mistakes they learn on the way, and sometimes that can be good, but sometimes you actually make more progress if you stop and think and analyze and get that data first and observe nature. Then you make your plan, then you do your action, then you monitor again at the end. So that'll come through in everything I'm saying. So basically, that's my philosophy with monitoring. Is it's really important that you start with it and then you keep going. It's a bit like if you want to lose weight, right? You hop on the scales to start with, don't you? And you work out how heavy you are now. Then you exercise, lose weight, whatever, and then you see. If you never got on the scales to begin with, you don't know if you've put on weight or lost. So it's the same with monitoring and citizen science. So now I'm going to talk a bit about where you find the information. There's lots of different sources. Basically, I've put a whole lot here. A lot of you will know some of them, but what I've found is often when I talk with people, really good example is iNaturalist. I say, oh, who uses iNaturalist? Actually, let's do that now. Who here uses iNaturalist? Right, who uses, actually, I know you do because you taught me iNaturalist about 2016 or 17. Nice to see you. Who uses it lots? Oh, look, a little bit. Even people in my council team, some of them, they go, yeah, I use iNaturalist. They got 4 observations. Nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot more you could do with it, okay? So, yeah, and I'll be showcasing one person who they've done tens of thousands of observations. And actually you can learn from their observations things that you didn't even know. So it's really cool. Okay, so basically it's a whole lot of resources to help anyone. So let's start at the very beginning. So Auckland Council, you pay your rates to them, right? And those rates, actually there's a small pocket of them that's a targeted rate called the NETA. Has everyone heard about that? The Natural Environment Targeted Rate. Basically your rates are ring-fenced, some of them, for biological outcomes. And they fund a lot of this. So if ever you've done any volunteering or got some council funding or gone to a park or anything like that, or gone for a walk on the new Koti Dieback boardwalks, it's all paid for by this. Now, they changed the way that council worked in a way to sort of help you. So basically, they've got this big program called Expand, and Expand just basically means expanding community action. So basically, here's the main part of it here. They want community-led conservation. Council can't do everything. DOC is so under-resourced they can do even less. We actually want to upskill everyone so you can do it. So we engage with people, we enable them, we give them tools, we involve them in decision-making, and then there's this bit here, and that's what I'm talking about, the theory of change, where instead of the council tells you what to do, we want to upskill you and then you take ownership of it. That's sort of how it's supposed to work. It's a tricky model, but basically that's how it works. And yeah, please do take photos of this because this is all in the public domain. This is actually to help you guys understand that council, in a way, wants to help you to do things. So part of that is we've got this website here. Has everyone heard of this website, Tiaki Tamaki Makoto? See, a lot of people haven't, or maybe you've gone on it and not realized what it was. You can also find it by typing in that, or if you can't remember it, because that is a bit of a mouthful, just if you go Conservation Auckland, you get the same thing. So a big part of your rates that you pay for biodiversity go towards this website. And basically, council puts all our resources there, but also everyone else's. So a good example is I contacted Michelle, who does these t-shirts this week. When I was at Matuka Link, I saw these amazing posters she's made. We've now put them up on this website. And I know we're going to put some of the Matuka Link ones up too. You've got really awesome one about the manu, the birds and things and the plants. We can put them on there too so people can find things. So if you have a resource, biodiversity resource that you want to share with people, butterflies would be a good example. Actually, you may be there, I'm not sure, but we can check. Please let us know because we want to put your resources up there. So here's what the website looks like. There's all sorts of information to help you understand conservation and how you protect things, what's here in Tamaki Makoto, how you can get involved with planting days or open days like Matuka Link Open Day. The bit that I have the most to do with is the map and the resource library. Resource library is where we put all the information, as I was just saying. So you go to that resource library, there's all these little tabs that you can click on. There's something there for every one that's interested in biodiversity, whether you have a group or you want to learn more about species or learn more about monitoring, education, it's all there. If you click on the monitoring bit, it recommends you start with these resources. Now let's do a little poll here. Who's seen this book before? Few people have, few people haven't. So that came out in 2018. Basically, that's a guide, it's quite a thick guide, explaining how if you're in the community, you can do some monitoring. There's also the doc version there as well. What I find though is even within council, I talk with a lot of people about this one, they don't know about it. Actually, as council, we've done a very poor job of advertising it, which is interesting if you think back to, hopefully not too many slides, oh, that one. Basically, we want to upskill you. So if we haven't actually told you how to do the monitoring, kind of in a way that's on us, isn't it? We should have done a better job with that. So all of this is aimed at upskilling you, and that's where these guides come in. So check that out at some stage. There's also all these ones. So if you're a wetland, there's all sorts of things you can do with your monitoring. But of course, there's probably lots more out there. And as I said, we really want to put more up there. So these are the three main guides that council use. Basically, how to monitor things, how to kill things, and how to plant things. Okay. So yeah, to put it bluntly. So all of them have a common theme. So oh, by the way, Robert Wolf, who knows him here? Yeah, I had to put him there because he and I used to have these amazing debates. We used to go to Wharapu with the friends of Wharapu, would stay up late, everyone else would go to bed, would stay up near the fire, having a drink. Often it was me having a drink and him not having a drink, but still it worked. And we would have these debates about outputs and outcomes. And I think half the time he was winding me up about it because I kept saying, we focus too much on the outputs and not the outcomes. So in the book here, it kind of goes into what monitoring is, okay? So basically, in a nutshell, monitoring is you're doing repeated observations, okay? Those of you that do lots of monitoring here, you probably would say it's a bit more than that, but that's just in a nutshell. You're doing scientific observations of something. If you're doing your activity monitoring, often you can just describe that as basically your activity numbers. How many pests have you killed? How many pests are out there? How many trees have you planted? It's all actions that you've done. But you do all those things because you want a certain outcome. And often we focus a lot on this and not so much on that. I have had some discussions with some groups where I say, oh, that's awesome, you've killed so many rats, but are you bringing any birds back? And they're like, the birds? I'm like, yeah, the birds. They're like, well, we sometimes see birds. And it's like, well, it needs to be a bit more specific. Because sustainable coastlines have a really good sort of mantra that if you don't monitor or if you don't assess something at the beginning, how do you know you've made a change? So we really, I think as a whole community, need to get a lot better at thinking about those outcomes and not just our outputs. Thing is that even in council, we're very guilty of that. We have money and we know we've got to get a certain number of people along, certain number of trees planted, certain number of traps out in the community. It is a numbers game, but often we've got to really focus on why we're doing something. Are we making a difference? So that community guide also goes on a bit more about how monitoring fits in with things. It'll help you track your progress, but there's a bit here I put in bold because I think it might appeal to you guys. It helps you with data for reporting and getting more funding. Who would like more funding for their projects? So yeah, funding is important. So that monitoring data is really a key for that. And here's a thing that we often all could do better at is saying start at the start. So basically monitor at the start before you do anything. Often we really don't do that. Now here's the trapping guidelines. So they have a page there, and I love pointing this out to people because often people go, oh, the trap guidelines, and they go straight to how to kill a rat, or they go, oh, I've got possum, straight to how to kill a possum, but they never read the first couple of chapters, and the first chapters are all about how you do it, how you plan it. And I love this. The top 4 things to do before you do anything else is monitoring. And the number 1 monitoring thing, if you're going to kill anything, is you work out what native species you had first. That's the one thing we do the worst at. We just don't do it. So it's the top thing, top of the list. So if you follow the guidelines, And I know it's a lot to expect everyone to follow the guidelines all the time, but if you follow the guidelines, they're really telling you, please do monitoring and please focus on those native species you want to save. The planting guide, this is quite new. Has anyone seen this one? Oh, yeah, let me introduce this to you. This is Te Hoano Taia. This was a long time coming. They consulted with all of the different iwi groups across Tamaki Makaurau and all the council experts. It took them years to get this done. This is a huge, big, thick coffee table book. It's lovely, glossy pictures. It's got some great stuff in it, and it's all about how to plant. But also, it talks about how important monitoring is for your restoration project. So even that one is saying do lots of monitoring. So all three guides are saying, please monitor, monitor, monitor of both the native species and those pest ones. So what I often see, I was talking about those conversations across the city. I see some people that do no monitoring at all. I see some people that do the pest monitoring. That's something is better than nothing, but a lot just don't do that native species monitoring. But then you get some that focus on it solely. And actually, we need to be thankful for those people. So like Birds NZ, they focus a lot on the birds. So yeah, basically we need to get much better at doing this. So another thing in that Tiaki system is the map. Now the map is really good. You can click on different things. So let's say if you're looking landscape scale at what's in an area, you can click on the schools or the streams or the park boundaries. You can click on SEAs, which is a significant ecological area, or your BFAs, which is a biodiversity focus area. Council loves acronyms, eh? But basically all of the kind of stuff you want to find out can be there. But my favorite is this, ecosystems. So basically this is, that's Rose Hallaby House, so up on Scenic Drive. So I put this one together for Michelle Swanepoel last year, and I was saying, where your new office is, this is what it was. So it was a Cody forest, or a Cody Polycarp broadleaf forest. Actually, we teach kids about this at Arataki, so there's a whole lot you can get into with that. But basically, if you click on the map and have this clicked, it will tell you what the area is. And then if you click on the blue link, it'll take you to this book. Has anyone seen this book before? A few people have, maybe. This is all the different types of ecosystems that we have in our city. So it's actually a really interesting read, but where it becomes really powerful is if you've got a project, say like Matuku Lake, or even where your house is, or where your school is, or where you work out what was there. So basically it can give you this, and it's a 2-page spread of what that ecosystem was like before humans. Now, why that's important is, remember before I was talking about monitoring before something. So basically this is your baseline data for what your area was like before. And it's got all of those things in it. So it tells you how widely distributed this ecosystem is. So basically, is it common, is it rare? What native plants were there, what native animals, a bit about the habitats, what's happening there, those key processes and stuff like that, the interactions. But then it switches to the present day and telling you what you should have there now. So let's say you are a restoration group and you're doing your monitoring, fantastic, and you're killing pests, great, and you do all that. You could compare what you're doing today with what it was. Now, you will never get it back to that because humans are here now. We can't reverse that, but it gives you an idea of what was here, maybe what you've lost or what you could bring back. So it's very powerful information. I know when I talk with a lot of groups, they get very excited because you can read all the fine print, like it says things like, you could have had moa in your area or tuatara, People really get excited with that. So that's a good one, and it sort of fits in that biodiversity or monitoring puzzle, because this is, in a way, this is sort of, if you'd monitored 1,000 years ago, that's what it would have been like. So then you can compare. Another good place to find monitoring information is on the Auckland Biodiversity Facebook page. Does anyone here follow this page? Please do on your Facebook. If you've got Facebook, follow this one. You get really cool updates. This one here is about an environment report that came out at the end of last year. So you can find out the latest that's happening in monitoring. Facebook's actually really good for stuff like that. Now, let's quickly talk about DOC. DOC also recommends lots of native biodiversity monitoring. This here is something they've put out for schools, but as we explain, basically when we talk with schools, we're trying to teach them best practice. So we're not actually dumbing down conservation for them, we're actually telling them how you're supposed to do it properly. Because those kids, you know, we want them to grow up and then they'll be doing the conservation. So they need to learn how to do it properly. If you look at all this, it's all about looking at your green space, looking at the birds, the invertebrates, the plants, all of that is like lots of monitoring. And then you look at the pests and you monitor them too, and you look and think about what's happening. Then you look at maybe your pest plants, then you do your plan, then you do your action. So they're actually saying there's like 8 steps before you even get to kill anything or plant anything. So there's actually a lot of thought in it. But once again, it's all about observing, monitoring, seeing what's out there. Also too, I put this in because this sort of alludes to what I was saying before. If you're looking at things as a teacher or a scientist, basically there's that scientific process. It's all about inquiry, investigation, things like that. And so that teaching process, the science process, is exactly the same as conservation. It just follows the process. Now, does anyone here know Dion Poe? Yeah, some of you probably know him quite well. He works often at Orangahina, the Te Aratu wetlands. What he brings to conservation and monitoring and citizen science is he brings that Mātauranga Māori lens. And he says to me that basically it's the same thing. So with Mātauranga Māori, you're looking for the tohu, the signs of what nature is telling you. If you are a scientist, you're doing the same thing. You'll be looking at it through a different cultural lens, but it's the same thing. You're basically observing and seeing what is that telling you to do. And that is your monitoring. That's your citizen science. So once again, just what we would use with schools. So basically, here's the action bit. You do all this first. You do your monitoring, you do your planning, then you do the action, then you do your reporting, and it goes round and round and round. When you were a child at school, this is actually the process you would have followed in the classroom. You probably didn't know that, but that's the learning process. So that's what we need to get better at with our conservation, just following the process. So who uses iNaturalist? So you asked this before, right? So I'll do a little bit of a deep dive into it. Some of it you may know. Hopefully I'll show you 1 or 2 new tricks or tips that you might want to think about. So a lot of people just use it on their phone. There is also the PC version. They're the same, but the PC has more functions, okay? Most people use iNaturalist in 3 ways. They will maybe use it for identification. What is this bird? By the way, what is it? Yeah, spoonbill. Yeah, too easy, right? Some people use it for a competition. There is this I want to point out to you. There's a competition coming up in April this year. I'll talk a bit more about it soon. I'm one of the Auckland organisers for this. But basically, when you have competitions like that, it's how many observations can you do? So it's either what is it, how many, or this is the one that I love the most, what biodiversity is in this area. And that's the one you can look at really well on your laptop, on your computer, because basically you can see what everyone else has found. And there are thousands of observations out there. So here's that City Nature Challenge, just putting a bit of a plug in for it. How's this? It's done in over 600 countries all around the world, all at the same time. So that's 600 countries with thousands of people in each of them, all doing citizen science monitoring. Click, 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 putting their observations up there. This is the 11th time they've done it. One thing, I've just put this here to remind me to say to you that the council has a system, an information system called Ruru. You probably haven't heard of it because it's only for council. It's our internal system. And that has all of the biodiversity information that we find out about. If you put something in iNaturalist and if it gets verified, so let's say I take a photo and Ian says, yes, that's a spoonbill. And then Anna Lily says, yes, that's a spoonbill. I think that gets it to the stage it's verified. It goes in the council system. So if you're out there on this weekend taking photos, your data ends up in the Auckland Council system, helping everyone. That's kind of cool. So there are projects all across the country. And if you look at all those places, that's most of the major cities. Guess what? Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, we always come last. So this year, I am going to try and change that. I'd like your help with that. So please get out there that weekend. I'm going to be promoting it through all of the different channels. The lady who normally promotes it, she's actually this week going on maternity leave. So she'll be a little bit busy, but that's good because I think, you know, we can up the ante and get more people out there.
When did you say it was October?
April. Hey, keep pushing the wrong button. April 24th.
Right.
And I think from memory, that might be a Monday for us, but that kind of works out good with the dates for the rest of the world. Of course, yes. Yes, you'll have a public holiday to get out there and do some observation, find some butterflies and some birds, all right? So please get out there. Then there was this. So this is a really good way to engage with people. So this was the Arataki Kids Day, but I did iNaturalist there. So if anyone knows Ollie that used to work there, he's actually just gone to go work in a school. But he and I came up with this project idea. So we basically made a border around the Arataki Visitor Centre, and anyone that did an observation, it went into it. Now, this number is slightly misleading. I need to explain. This is for all time up to that event. So it wasn't just that weekend. We said we were interested in what people have found all the way through. So at that stage, which was about a year and a half ago, there were 1,600 observations there. Now there's 2,600. So just a little bit later. What I find really fascinating is, so that's a lot of observations done by that many people. But what happens is more people than the observers always comment or look at them. So actually, if you are a conservation group and you want outreach, you want people to learn about what you have, start putting some iNaturalist up, because more people are connecting with your project online than actually taking photos. Just something to think about. And you get both. They actually see it for real. They see it and they're like, oh, I want to go see it now. And then they'll go have a look. And look at all those species. That's heaps. Oh, so there I am. Oh, by the way, schools and a lot of communities, like Community Library across the road there, they often have these big TVs. If you do the iNaturalist thing and you click on this one, the species, it comes up with all of these that look like this. So people can just stand there and they're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And you see things. Now, this is for Arataki. I looked and I looked and I looked, and then I saw something. Might be a bit too small, but what's this bird here? It's a whitehead, Waitakere, and I'm like, what's that doing there? So then you can click on the observations and it tells you a story. Can anyone guess what story this is?
Mr. Pinkbag.
Yes. I actually didn't know this story till I looked at that, and then I started asking. Just get a quick drink, but yeah. So it tells you everything that's there, but whitehead, what the heck were they doing there? So it brings up this map, and each one of these pin drops is an observation, and you can see what other people have seen. And like I said, it goes into the council system, Ruru. And you can pull up this. Now, has anyone ever heard of this person, Jackie? Yeah, so a lot of us know Jackie. Jackie was a real force in, I guess, monitoring conservation, really well-known West Auckland photographer. And for a lot of places, she still holds the records for the number of observations. Okay. So I was looking at it. Now, she was the one that saw the Waitakere, the whitehead. And so that there, yeah, that's the Beverage Track. So that's Scenic Drive. That's up near Arataki. And if you can read the notes, because she was very good at putting detailed descriptions in, and she was able to look at the bands and then work out where that bird came from. Annalili, can you quickly tell us the story?
Don't get me.
Oh, it doesn't have to be accurate.
Numbers, but over, I think, 5 years' time, Waitakere were translocated mainly from Waitakere
Yes.
to Auckland Park in batches, because, you know, when they fly out of their lovely park, they are poof. And because Auckland Park is in the middle of Waitakere Ranges, you know, Auckland Park's 2,000 and a bit hectares of pest control, but it is within an area of 16,000 hectares of non-pest control. So they spread around, and all of the 600 that were released had bans on. So those, when people saw them, they were, someone told someone else, and that went most of the time to Auckland Park or to council. But there was this male that had pink bands, and that was the one that was hanging around Arataki for a very, very long time. So that was a very famous little Waitakere. Unfortunately, they have not been seen for quite a number of years. There are a couple of theories about it. One is that 16,000 hectares is an awful lot of forest, very high trees. Those little birds need to find a territory, but they also need to find a mate. And maybe, there's no birds Tinder, they could just find each other. So, if you see a Waitakere, please let the ARC know. That's the fastest way of doing it. And then they will send someone out with very good binoculars and knowledge of birds. Jackie was one of them who did surveys as well. So she got paid a couple of times to go and look for them because she was very good at spotting them. We had one at Matriculink at one point as well. One with a blue band on, and we tried to get people with good cameras. We got one photograph without its bands.
Yeah.
But haven't seen any since. Yeah.
So we need your help in a way to see, if any are still out there. What I find fascinating is that's the Arataki Visitor Centre, that's the car park. So that's that spiral path that goes up the top. There was one right there. Now, what I also find fascinating is all of the observations that were put onto iNaturalist. I mean, maybe some other people took a photo or saw it, didn't take a photo, but basically all the ones that were put were only by Jackie. And she only saw them between 2016 and 2019. And then, COVID happened, and then also Jackie's not here anymore, so basically there've been no more sightings. But it brings home to me the power of this iNaturalist. I didn't know about that story. I knew the birds had been released, but I didn't know where they'd been seen. But to actually just be randomly looking, and you can look at the species. Now, this also happened with one other one, and I hope I've got it queued up. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. I've got a few here about the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area. I thought that would be of interest to you guys. Look at this, 59,000 species. That was September last year. Now it's 64 and a half. So there's a lot of people out there taking photos in this area. For almost 5,000 species, well, 4,800 species. And I just took this screenshot this afternoon. That's pretty recent. So it just shows that there is a lot of people out there taking photos of stuff. So that's a very powerful tool, iNaturalist, to look, see what other people have found. A really good example of that is this. So this is in the heart of Kelston. That's Waitakere Cemetery. Anyone knows the area? There's the Faux River. There's the Avondale Racecourse. And this is a project we did because I think there's about 5 schools all in that area. So what we did is there's a function on iNaturalist I really recommend you get. I think you click on Explore and you get the map going, and it will be sort of blank. Oh, actually, it won't be blank. There'll be lots of observations everywhere. But you use these 2 little boundary makers. So basically, you make a polygon. So you can make a square, or you can make a circle. You can make it as big or small as you like. But basically, you set it, and then it will only show you what's within that area. And why that's really cool is, so like for those kids, we could work out, say, roughly about, was it maybe a kilometre or maybe less in their local area in every direction what was there. And then we could do that thing where we look at all the species. And then, once again, we were looking and we found something. You won't see it on this slide, it's on this slide. It's a leopard seal swimming in the Faux River. Once again, it was Jackie. How good is that? So she also uploaded a video. I didn't want to tempt fate and try and have that because, nothing worse than a video not working. But look it up. Look for the Faux River. So that's this area here, sort of in between Waitakere and Avondale Racecourse. And see if there's anything in the river, and then click on it, and it could be, oh, gone too far, could be this one, Orpha the leopard seal, and it's a really cool little video. That was so engaging for the local schools. Now they are all fascinated that, you know, through looking at someone else's citizen science and monitoring, they were able to find that they have a leopard seal in their neighborhood. Yeah, so just one other thing, with making that circle or the square, basically if you want to keep that, you just go up to the address bar and double click it, and you know how that will change color? And then you can just cut and paste it. So a lot of people with iNaturalist will go to all the effort of making a project. You can do, but what I've seen with projects is it's a lot of messing about for you to make it, but then also to, if you set it up not quite the right way, if you set up it's members only. So imagine if I was a member and say Ian was a member and all the rest of you weren't, and if you take a photo, our photos go in it, yours don't. But really you want to see what everyone is seeing. So actually this is a real quick way, and I can do this in less than 60 seconds. If you do it the other way of setting up the permissions and the project, it takes a long time. And then you've got to do something, I don't know what it's called, it's a KML file or something, and you've got to work out the map, and that's a headache. If you do this, less than 60 seconds, you've got your own project. Because what you can also do, I don't know if you guys know this trick, if you double click in the address bar and you cut and paste that, you can then go right click, edit link, and you can rename it to whatever you want. So instead of it being blah, 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 gobbledygook, we changed it so it says Kelston iNaturalist. And I send that link out to the people and they click on it. And the neatest thing is it updates with the latest observations. So when I did it, this was a year or two ago, it was only 424. If I did that again today, it would now say probably about 600. It updates itself. So it's a really cool tip. Did anyone else here know that tip? Oh, some did. Good. That's good. All right. But yeah, I think that's one of my top tips. You can make your own little sort of project, share the link, and it takes less than 60 seconds. eBird. Who here uses eBird? I know these guys do a lot. I've actually only just discovered this, say, in the last year and a half. I love eBird. All right. It's very good. Once again, there's a phone sort of version, and you can look up on the PC. I'm often looking on the PC because I'm interested in seeing what other people have found. Okay. So there's lots here to it. Now, Ian and Trina, if I get any of this wrong, please correct me. Okay, so one of the coolest things I've found with it is the hotspots. Okay, so you can look up hotspots where people have done lots of other checklists. So there are lots of people out there basically doing checklists of the birds they see. And once you start doing it, it's really addictive. It is, isn't it? So basically you go somewhere, oh, thank you for coming. And you can see what other people have done. And basically too, when you are adding your own little observation, it'll actually recommend to you, well, you're very close to this hotspot. Do you want your observations to be tagged to that? Okay, so it's very cool. So it's very like iNaturalist. It can basically work out who you are, where you are, what day it is, all that kind of stuff. Okay, but if you use the laptop version, the PC version, you can click on these hotspots, and here's some for West Auckland. I thought you guys might find that interesting. So it's lots of different hotspots of where people have done lots of bird counts. That's the address there. The app is really good. Highly recommend it. And then you can click on different things. One of my favorite things is you click on the bird list. It tells you every bird that people have submitted for that particular hotspot. So this one here is Matuku Lake. By the way, the list is a lot longer. I just do it that big, you know, the screen's not big enough. But so there's 41 different species that people have seen.
Wow.
Probably after the open day, that number's probably higher now. But that's really neat. And then you can like see when people took them. There's different things you can see, sort of like when it was last observed, when it was first observed. Yeah, so there's lots of very cool functions that you sort of can click on. So once again, you're basically looking at what other people have found, but also it's neat you can contribute your own observations. Anything you guys would like to add?
I just think it's very good for it sort of keeps your own list. So you
Yes.
don't write anything down. like years ago, we used to write down a life list of all the birds they'd seen, and it just automatically does it. So, like my New Zealand list is like 166.
Yeah, you see, people get really competitive going, what they've seen, what they haven't. I think it's
What
great.
you haven't got as well, like you look up a target list of things that
Mm.
you haven't found yet,
Yes.
so that you can go looking at for Twitcher. But one thing I wanted to point out is that these hotspots are worldwide. So eBird is an American thing, basically an American. Birding is a really big activity there. So you can basically go anywhere in the world and find these hotspots. So if you're visiting an area and you want to look at some birds in the forest somewhere overseas, you can go to eBird and just download that checklist. Yeah.
Mm.
And look at some pictures as well, so you can familiarise yourself with birds if you go into a particular group.
There's one story I'll share, and you guys might go, don't share that story, but there's been stories about a bittern seen on the way up towards Woodhill. And I was like, oh, how am I going to know where it was? I looked it up. Lots of people had seen it. So then I did a drive-by and I made sure I was enough back so I wasn't going to disturb it. I did feel guilty though, because then someone saw me looking with my binoculars, so they parked right near the thing. And I'm like, oh, don't. But yes, you can find all sorts of things. So like, for example, on my summer break, I went to Mangawhai. And so I was looking up beforehand where all of the banded rail in that area were, because we were near the estuary. And guess what? I went and found some.
Yeah.
Right where it was telling me.
Did you upload what you saw?
I did, yes. Yeah. So it's a very powerful tool looking at what other people have found.
Very well with moon as well.
Yeah.
So the ties them together.
Yes. Are they linked or?
Yes, they do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Libra, yeah.
Merlin's quite good if you listen to a bird, you can't
Yeah.
tell what the species is.
It's
So we
like
call something, you can just click on the sound and it will listen. But it actually listens to the sound of the bird. What's that called? Merlin.
There's lots of cool apps, eh?
Yeah, and it goes along with eBird, so it's Cornell. That have produced it. Yeah, but they work together. So whatever you've got, if you've got both of the apps, they talk to each other. So it'll know what you've already seen on your live list and what you haven't. Yeah, so it's quite good.
And it's just used worldwide. So if you go to Singapore, you just change to Singapore. It'll do your list for that country.
Yeah.
It's really quite
Very
fascinating.
good. And a lot of the people that really know their birds use this. So in the last year and a bit, I've joined up with NZ Birds, and all the people seem to use this. So yeah, so it basically, I'd say it's what the experts use. Now, eDNA, who's heard of this one? Okay, so basically, if anyone knows Pam Gill from Eco Matters, she was actually the one that introduced me to this. So she was doing it in a park in Glendine. And I was like, wow, schools would really be interested in that, because when you pull up the results, it's very similar to the iNaturalist, where you get these basically squares of all the different species. It's very good visually. So basically the idea is when it rains, actually the slides tell the story. When creatures move through the environment, they leave behind their DNA, right? And then you can take a water sample, and the water sample will have all the DNA that's there. So basically think of like a catchment, and when it rains, all of the material ends up in the stream, or little particles of it. So when you're actually testing a stream, it's not necessarily gonna, it'll give you the results of all the things, but not just what's living in the stream. It's actually the whole catchment. So that's one thing I really want to point out, because a lot of people go, oh, it's stream testing. Well, it is, you're testing in the stream, but you can get all the birds in a tree that's a long way away from the stream. You get all the insects, the plants. Now you don't get all of them, because imagine how much water is there and how many little tiny little fragments of DNA. It's a little bit lucky dip, but it's like with any observation, you can get lucky sometimes and find things. It's not always foolproof, but also, I guess it's like anything. If you did, say, Waitakere stream testing, and if you did a bird survey and you did this, and you did iNaturalist and you put them all together, it gives you a picture of what could be there. So this is for the whole country in the last year. almost 11,000 samples. So if you looked at this 10 years ago, it would be zero. The technology didn't exist then. About 5 years ago, I think maybe it sort of started. 2 or 3 years ago, there were some. Now there's thousands. Yes.
For people who work on specific species, you can call Wildalab and say if they know the sequence for that species and go specifically ask for that. That means they run a different sequencing process for your water sample than they would otherwise do when you have catch all. So that's one thing. And the other one is, don't forget the DNA of some species stay in the system forever. So for instance, if you had freshwater mussels, kakahi, in your stream 100 years ago, but the shells are still there and there still might be a bit of DNA, they might still show up, even though they're currently not alive in your stream. So those are two things that
Yes.
we learned from doing this.
There's lots of ins and outs with this, and for some people, they're not too sure about it. It reminds me a bit of the discussions we had as a society about genetic modification, a little while ago. So some people are really into it, some aren't, some don't know. Also, too, there's lots of things about, I guess, ownership. So basically, there are different iwi perspectives on it. Out here in the west, Te Kaurau-Maki, they love it. So we've talked with them about it, and they're keen for the results. Some other iwi, so Ngāti Manahiri up near Tawharanui, they're not keen on it. So also that's one thing you need to think about. One other thing we're finding too is just picture, say, a typical Auckland stream. So in Auckland, the stream is probably managed by council, and often it's in a council park because the land next to the stream. Sometimes it can be private, but sometimes it's council land. And what we find is sometimes we have community groups who we're funding, so it's everyone's money, council money, and the council managed stream on council land, and the people try and keep the results secret. So I'm not sure how that sits because it's not your money that paid for it. So I guess just one thing to be aware of, if you do this and it asks you, do you want it private or public, do have a big think about that, because there are some community groups where we've said to them, why'd you make it private? And they said, oh, we just thought it was our information. Well, it's paid for by the public. You kind of need to share it with the public, but also there's aspects of the stream, and it is a big, I guess, question with a lot of the data sovereignty. So that is something that we are constantly as council working through. Also too, with this, we've actually had a process where we go out to all the different iwi groups and ask them what do they think about all of this. So if anyone knows Paul Duffy, he's in the environmental services team. That's actually his job at the moment, is going out to all the different iwi, asking them what they think about monitoring, because you don't want to offend people or do the wrong thing, or you could be testing in a site that's wahi tapu. So there's lots of things, I guess, to think about with any modern technology. Reminds me a bit of, that movie Jurassic Park, and there were all the ethical questions about what they were doing. Similar kind of thing. So yeah, so these are all the ones for Auckland. You see there's not too many out west. But one thing Wildalab did say to me is when they get the test basically sent to them, 2/3 of them are marked private. So this, oh, thank you for coming. Oh, that's all good. So basically there could be 2/3 more tests there that we don't know because they've all been marked private. So that is just something to think about. I know they are investigating what to do. Let's say if someone marks it private, but actually it's on, say, DOC land or council land, should DOC or council know? Or, maybe it's someone else's land you're doing it on, should the owner know? So they're really looking into things like that. This is a new technology, like any new technology, they're trying to find their feet as they go. What it can show you though is this. This is the report you get. So this is for a little bio-blitz we had at Aotearoa Valley in the stream there, up behind the Massey, it's Massey Uni there, eh? But it's kind of changed a bit. A lot of the science team have gone there now. But so this is the results we got. What I love about it is it shows all kinds of things. Now, as Anna Lily was saying, you can get some unusual readings of things like dogs. Well, I mean, I guess, you could have dogs in that system. You can sometimes get cows here. You can sometimes even get marine species fish. And they're like, how did that DNA get there? And what we think is sometimes someone could be having fish and chips somewhere in the catchment, and it ends up on the ground and a little fragment goes in. We have one really... Oh yeah, it could be dog food. The funniest one we've had is with one college, I won't say which college, but there was marijuana came up.
Only one college.
Well, it doesn't get all the DNA, does it? So, yeah. But I mean, that is very visual. So once again, if you blow that up on a big screen, and you can start to talk about what are the native species, endemic species, what are the introduced species, what are the pests. So there's lots you can look at there. And what we suggest with people is, like with all monitoring, you get it, but then you basically just start asking yourself a whole lot of questions. So this is what we did with the local school. We had to walk them through it because they didn't understand some of this, and some of it you need sort of, I guess, explaining to them. But basically, as you're looking at all the different things you saw, and then you're thinking, well, so what? What action could that tell you to do? So this is sort of what they came up with. So I thought that was quite neat. They looked at the native species, they looked at the pest species, they thought what was interesting, what was the results tell us, and then what action that they could do. And I thought, well, that's really cool. So basically that data monitoring, or the monitoring data, I should say, fed into something and it resulted in something. So I thought that was kind of cool. Once again, there's lots to it. We're really big on sharing information. So who could you tell? So, like you could share it. I mean, as I said, some people just keep that to themselves, but it's better if everyone shares data. So, share it with other community groups, schools, park rangers, healthy waters, mana whenua. It's sort of endless. But, just always think about, if you've got some data, how can you share it, and where will you store it? When will you do it again? Here are some of the groups that you may have heard of that are using it. There's probably more to the list. But I know, like MPHS, Natasha there, we were doing it with her, Community Waitakere, Whitebait Connection, who are Mountains to Sea, and they had this program here, Y Connection. They put up this amazing big resource all about this kind of technology. So that's really cool. Kaipariki Project are doing it. So there's lots of different ones. Now, on something a bit different, another source of information, you can look up the Garden Bird Survey. Who here does the Garden Bird Survey? Anyone? Yeah, cool, awesome. So you can partake, but also you can look at the data on their website, and this tells you what's been happening, say, over a 10-year period. So you're looking at what other people, what other citizen scientists have seen, and you can think about what does that mean. So I think that's quite interesting, and they've got lots of cool little reports that you can look up. YouTube is also a really cool one. Videos, been really getting into videos lately. I've been a bit inspired with the team there at Community Waitakere. So this is Dion Poe, and this was quite famous. This got into stuff and on the TV news. So they found a matuku there on their trail camera. So we've actually bought some. I actually have one here. So we bought some for our schools team because we want schools and community groups to use it. So if anyone is interested actually in trialing one with us, we're not actually going to give it to you. We've done that before and then we never see the thing again, but we'll use it with you. But basically you could end up with some amazing footage of what's in your project. And so we're keen to do that like in big nature reserve areas like Matuku Link, but also even in your local park, even in schools, or maybe what's around your house. I did it at home. Actually, I probably should have put the picture up. There's a neighbour's cat that keeps coming into our garden. And there's a bit of an area where we've dug up the garden. It uses it as a litter box. So actually, I know which cat it is now because I set up my camera. So it's amazing what you could find. Both those native species, but also the pest ones too.
You could just do it with your home camera as well.
You could, yeah. Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff. So basically the technology we have now, there's lots of good things you can do. And this actually got me thinking because I've been trying to collect lots of different video examples because video is amazing. When I showed those school kids the leopard seal, oh, they loved it. Okay, so you can just Google it, different things. But what I've actually experimented with is this. I just set this up a little while ago. It's only got 2 videos in it at the moment. But basically, I kept thinking, well, where do we put this information? So, I mean, maybe something already exists. But so if you are a community group and you get some cool video footage, let's share it, put it up there for other people to find. So just, put that in the back of your mind. Conservation videos, it says what it is. Have a little look. I'd love to share your videos if you've got any, but also if you want to make some, let's talk and then we can put them up there. And that's the end of my talk. So does anyone have anything they want to add? Yes.